Adam Schiff today decided to go on a historic run of L's. Adam Schiff is one of the dumbest, most insufferable, most dishonest creatures I've ever seen in Washington, D.C. And again, I've lived here for 15 years, and I've seen the worst of them. If something leaves Adam Schiff's mouth, it is highly likely that not only is it not true, but the opposite, in fact, is true. Adam Schiff spent the better part of the last 7 years calling President Trump a traitor to this nation, who was dangerous to our national security. Yet here, breaking this morning, I can show you on screen that, in fact, the danger to our national security and the traitor and someone who is a true criminal by every weight and measure is, in fact, Adam Schiff. Democrat whistleblower told FBI that Adam Schiff okayed leaking classified information to hurt President Trump. Oh my. So Adam Schiff is, of course, on the heels of a mortgage fraud investigation that is happening right now. And now we learn that the FBI, for some reason, and I'm not sure what that reason is, has sat on whistleblower evidence from one of Adam Schiff's own staffers, saying that Adam Schiff intended on leaking classified information in order to undermine Trump in a criminal conspiracy. Let's read the top line here. Career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee for more than a decade repeatedly warned the FBI, beginning in 2017, that then Adam Schiff approved leaking classified information to smear Donald Trump in a now debunked Russia-Gate conspiracy. According to bombshell FBI memos, Director Kash Patel turned over to Congress the FBI 302 interview reports obtained by Just the News, state that the intelligence staffer, a Democrat by party affiliation, who described himself as a friend of both Schiff and California Senator, former Republican House Intel Chairman Devin Nunes, considered the classified leaking to be unethical, illegal, and treasonous, but was not to worry about it because Schiff believed that he would be spared prosecution under the Constitution's speech and debate clause. No publicly disclosed opinion from the Attorney General or Solicitor General has ever been found making that determination as a matter of law. But officials told Just the News that the DOJ officials showed little interest in pursuing Adam Schiff, and the whistleblower confirmation that Adam Schiff is taking classified information and then leaking it to the media when the allegations were brought to them, citing a very same excuse that the lawmaker had offered. This is very, very bad. Let's go ahead and read the whistleblower report here. When working in this capacity, redacted staffer's name, the staffer, was called to an all-staff meeting held by Adam Schiff, the interview report said. In this meeting, Schiff stated that the group would leak classified information which was derogatory about President Trump. Schiff stated that the information would be used to indict President Trump. The whistleblower was told that the whistleblower told investigators that he stated this would be illegal, and upon hearing his concerns, unnamed members of the meeting reassured that they would not be caught leaking classified information. The staffer made similar claims to agents in the FBI Washington field office, but was flatly ignored. The FBI reports are available to read on their website now. This seems really bad, ladies and gentlemen. We have someone who's perfect lined up to chat about this, our dear friend, Brett Tolman, former federal prosecutor, to chat about, well, are you allowed to leak classified information? This is somebody who's probably handled a considerable amount of classified information, joining us live now. Brett, how are you this morning?
Good morning. Well, Benny. Good morning.
We're live from the White House today, which is awesome. Using the
it's very fitting. It fits well on you.
Started from the bottom, and now we're in Joe Biden's fake White House in the Fisher-Price Resolute desk. So working our way up. Brett, this is a very interesting disclosure from a whistleblower, and there's been a lot of reporting now from the Federalist and some of our other friends online, great sleuths, to really validate everything that this whistleblower is saying. Names, dates, times, connections, reporters, the leaks, the information, it seems dead to rights that this whistleblower has been verified as an accurate and knowledgeable whistleblower who's really telling the truth about real crimes that Adam Schiff engaged in. Maybe you could talk us through what is the crime? What would happen to a regular person if they were to leak classified information?
Yeah, Benny, just for the listeners at the onset, let's just clear one thing up. The speech and debate clause is not a defense to criminally leaking and violating our classified document laws. And it's stressed, actually, when you go into Congress as a new member of Congress, you are told that it is criminal if you are to leak anything, and you have to review such material only in an authorized SCIF. And that is a room that has been swept for bugs, and you have to check your phones and all electronics whenever you go into the SCIF in order to review classified documents. So there's no defense for a member of Congress that would save him. And as to what crime, I just finished a case in which I defended an individual who was prosecuted vigorously by the U.S. Attorney's Office for taking classified information from his work to his home. Now, Benny, the classified information was a formula that he came up with in his own head. He's a nuclear scientist, and he came up with the formula, and he didn't want to have to redo it. So he took the formula from the government that he had created. They prosecuted him. It's a felony. And he faced up to 10 years in federal prison. I mean, they treat this very seriously for everyone else, but for the FBI to walk away from this, when I've seen case after case after case of individuals that they have come down on very hard, it's outrageous, and it's offensive to anybody that's worked these kinds of cases.
So yes, I mean, there are very stiff penalties for this. Obviously, I think everybody would agree with this. Every American would say, yeah, absolutely, you shouldn't leak classified information. We don't want that to be something that you can do or get away with. Or if there's a temptation to do that and get paid for it, then the penalties should be very severe. So can you talk me through, like, what would the penalties look like for an average individual leaking classified information?
Yeah, I mean, the fine is up to $250,000 for every leak that's charged. So it depends on the counts in the indictment. Also, keep in mind, some of the punishment hinges on the purpose that the classified leak or the possession of classified documentation illegally. So the purpose becomes very important. If you'll recall, Comey, when he said no prosecutor would prosecute Hillary Clinton for having classified information, I mean, it was just an outright lie. But there was always this question, this debate. What was the purpose of it? Was it just sloppiness? Same with Joe Biden. Was it sloppiness that he had all of these, that he used the classified documents to write his memoirs? Was there anything truly nefarious about it? And there was some analysis of Donald Trump. But with President Trump, it was just, you had him, we're going to go after you because that's how we're going to apply the law. But in reality, you have to look at the purpose to see whether or not there are aggravating factors. Here, I believe this was, in essence, the beginning of a conspiracy to take down a president, to impact his ability to lead. There are other statutes, conspiracy statutes, interference with official proceedings, etc. There's question. A lot of people have question about treason. Is it treason? You probably don't satisfy the elements for treason, but there are some related crimes that could come into play. And if you found that the individual was doing it in an effort to undermine the United States, you're looking at potential penalties of up to 20 years in federal prison.
Wow. I mean, those are severe penalties, and I believe that those should be enforced. I think everybody who loves this country would say, yeah, absolutely, like, throw the book at people who do this. So this FBI 302, could you explain, like, how this process is working? Again, there has been a considerable amount of validation of this whistleblower. This isn't some crackpot. This isn't some degenerate. This isn't somebody making things up. They've gone through the names, the reporters, the outlets, the sources, the timeline. It's all locked into place, and it's going viral across my timeline. as this seems like an incredibly valid whistleblower, what should happen to Adam Schiff if this is to be investigated and proved?
Well, it is valid. It's, the fact that this is a Democrat staffer, that's working on the committee. This is unusual, Benny. I've seen some things that are unusual in Congress, but to have they felt compelled enough that the conduct was outrageous enough that the demand to leak this information was so bad that they were willing to risk their own party being furious or upset and go to the FBI. Now, what would typically happen is a red file would have been opened. A red file is a file that typically involves classified documents or the leaking of classified documents. It's very sensitive. Only certain people can review what the allegations are. That would be open at the top levels of the FBI and DOJ. So you would have from the DAG's office, the AG's office, and the director of the FBI, all of them would be aware of the allegations. So this is not just some bureaucrat that would have buried this and made a decision themselves. At the highest level, they determined not to do something about it. Because once an allegation comes in on a member of Congress, it immediately triggers certain protocols in the Department of Justice. I was ironically given a referral for a member of Congress who allegedly committed mortgage fraud in a manner somewhat similar to to the allegations we've heard.
And you're going to have to narrow that down. You're going to have to narrow that down these days.
Yeah.
I can't even guess anymore.
No, I know. You've got Letitia James, you've got Congressman Schiff, you've got the willingness to do what others have been prosecuted for criminally. They do in the name of the ends justified, the means in this case. And so when a member of Congress, an allegation comes in, it triggers protocols at the highest levels of the Department of Justice. The U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. would have handled the prosecution, the investigation, the grand jury, and the prosecution of such a case. But they would have been assisted by the Deputy Attorney General's office in pursuing the case. There's no reason, no legitimate reason to have ignored such a bombshell that comes from one of their own staffers saying, "I've seen enough. This is wrong, and it's against the interests of the United States."
Also, given the preponderance of demonstrable evidence of Adam Schiff going on national TV and talking about classified information, it's not like he was trying to hide his cards here, Brett. If you go back and you watch the old news hits that he was doing, he was clearly laundering information, wink, wink, nod, nod, to this. It wouldn't be hard to actually pin this down and to see where this is coming from. Adam Schiff was doing it on live TV, live on MSNBC, in the green room where he has his own pitch tent during the time period in order to shovel the Russiagate hoax at people. I recall, for instance, Adam Schiff saying, "I have seen the evidence that Donald Trump colluded with Vladimir Putin to steal the election." I remember that line specifically. Still waiting for that, Brett. But where, like, it was pretty obvious. He was belligerent about it, actually. If you were a prosecutor and you were looking into this.
Well, the brazenness comes from a couple of factors. One, he was a former AUSA, a former federal prosecutor. And he became a member of Congress, and he saw and watched Comey leak information to the press when it was convenient. I'm sure he was in the loop when others had done it. And then members of Congress have been given, they've been given a pass, whether it's insider trading or any of the other things that the regular public wouldn't be given a pass on. They're given a pass. So I see that brazenness having grown. And then Donald Trump comes in and it triggers their willingness to finally cross the line. And multiple individuals were willing to do it. And I think it comes as a result of never having been held accountable as their professional career, occurred, and as they moved up into prominence, and the media, fawned all over most of these individuals because they were attacking the person everyone agreed they hated, and that was Donald Trump.
I read through these 302s, man. Adam Schiff as CIA director, holy moly. We don't thank Donald Trump enough. We don't. We're not appreciative enough. And I have plenty of appreciation for the man, but I'm looking through this, I'm reading, I'm going, wait a second. As part of this, just for the audience out there, because we haven't gotten to, it's an extensive article that's about 3,000 words. In part of the 302, and maybe we can, producers, can you just grab the FBI files so we can pop them up so everyone can read the documents with us? I always want to make sure we have the documents there for everyone to read. As part of this, and I encourage all of you to go to the FBI website and find it, link in the description. As part of this, it details how Adam Schiff's animus towards Trump and his raging towards Trump comes from, and the origin point of this villain story, the villain origin story comes from Adam Schiff being promised the CIA director role from Hillary Clinton. So that's part of this whistleblower. And that Adam Schiff was distraught over his dream crumbling before his very eyes and turning to ash, that he would not be the CIA director. That would be very much on brand, though, I guess, Brett, and that what we know about Brennan. If Brennan was able to hand the baton to Adam Schiff, I suppose that would definitely be in the same league, right?
I think we not only did we dodge a bullet, but can you imagine Adam Schiff with his lack of, or his warped moral compass, sitting in that position? The types of operations that he would have led would have made the Brennan, Clapper, Russiagate conspiracy pale in comparison to what he would be willing to do. Now that we know he was willing to commit a crime in front of others and tell other people about it, and he feared nothing and no repercussion. And so him in that CIA position would have jeopardized the national security and public safety of the entire country.
Yeah, man. Yeah, sometimes gratitude is an important thing. I think it's probably the least practiced virtue in American society today. And so it's good to have some gratitude that Adam Schiff is not CIA director. My God, where would we be as a country? Single most dishonest and duplicitous liar in history. Oh, yeah. Again, on brand for many of the CIA directors. Yes. John Ratcliffe has a hell of a job in front of him.
John does, and I know him, very well, and have spent time with him, and I've measured the man. His character is incredible, and his willingness to expose what has occurred, and his willingness to do things the right way. I think you have a man in the position that wants to do it in an honest, upfront way. We haven't had that for a long time in that position.
Yes. Well, we haven't had a safe Washington, D.C. You talk about a nation under threat. We haven't had a safe Washington, D.C., I think, ever, not in my lifetime or yours. And now it seems like President Trump is trying to do something about it. Washington, D.C., of course, a scar on the face of our nation, is the seat of Western civilization, Brett. And so we should make this an advertisement, actually, for our morals and for our system, that it works. But Washington, D.C. is the exact opposite. I'm not personally familiar with how much time you've spent here. I know as a federal prosecutor, you must have been here quite a bit. But perhaps you could just muse quickly on, does Donald Trump have the right to do this? And does this need to be done?
Yeah, Bang, I've spent the better part of a lot of my career. I lived in McLean, Virginia, worked in D.C. for many years at the highest levels of government in both DOJ and then in Congress. And I've watched progression. I've seen the rise and the fall of different crimes. What's disheartening right now is the dishonesty about what's actually occurring. You can't fix a problem if you're not honestly assessing the problem. And I'm seeing people on the left saying crime has dropped. Well, in a lot of ways, it's a manipulation of data. Carjackings in 2018, were very low, under 200 for the entire year. 2023 comes around and it's almost 1,000 carjackings, an exponential increase. And then last year they fall somewhat to roughly 500 to 600. So then everybody is saying, look, crime has fallen, in order to push back on what Donald Trump is doing. And the reality is that's not an honest assessment. If I spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C. I talk to people. I ride in Ubers. Uber drivers are terrified. They won't go into certain neighborhoods. Several that I've ridden with have been carjacked. There's a sense that they're not secure. And so regardless of any data, what Donald Trump is picking up on is the insecurity of individuals in major parts of Washington, D.C. And does he have the authority to do this? He does. What the dynamic, though, that's happening is he's going to stop the crime. And that's just part one. He's not necessarily the enforcement behind holding individuals accountable. That has to come with a joint operation and collaboration between the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Washington, D.C. police. That's the mechanism that has to come next. And that is getting together, put politics aside and say, okay, we've stopped the crime now with the help of the National Guard. Now, what do we do in order to hold them accountable, those that would be willing to commit crime?
Yeah, it's something that was in my timeline this morning, Brett, was one of the DC prosecutors on the city level saying, well, you can't arrest your way out of crime. Yeah, you can. I mean, that's actually how you do it. In fact,
the truth about deterrence, Benny, is it's not the length of the sentence; it's the predictability of being prosecuted. So if they have no predictability, they don't believe they're going to be caught, they don't believe they're going to be charged, then they continue. And that's what we know about deterrence. It doesn't matter how long you sentence them. The fact that they have genuine fear to be caught and prosecuted is what will stop the crime from occurring.
So lucky you, Judge Janine will actually be on the program in just a few minutes. So
she can go through the plan.
you're saying this is the key enforcement tactic. You can have as many National Guard troops as you want. You must have somebody to put the criminals in jail.
That's correct. You've got to pursue these cases. It's very tricky when they're juveniles too, because juveniles, there's some of the same rules don't apply, and the U.S. Attorney's Office doesn't have primary jurisdiction over juveniles. And so you've got to work with the state police and these district prosecutors and work together. And there used to be a time in which politics were put aside because everybody wanted to eradicate crime. Lately, we haven't seen that so much from the left.
Well, no, actually, we've seen the opposite. President Trump is here saying we're going to make our nation's capital and the seat of Western civilization safe, and he's being attacked by everyone for it, including Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, who were part of this leaking crew, but also Nancy Pelosi, ironically, with her history at the National Guard. Hillary Clinton has come out of the woodwork.
I thought that.
Yeah. That's just utterly fascinating. But yeah, I mean, sure, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if they get away with it. But saying, yeah, we're the party of criminals and illegal aliens. I don't know. Let's see how it works out for you. But President Trump does have the right to do this. President Trump has the constitutional authority to do this. D.C. is still a federal city. The amendments to the Constitution about D.C. and its nature are still intact and have never been rescinded and have never been amended. Is this correct?
That's correct. The whole country is divided into 94 federal districts, and Washington, D.C. is one, and the most unique because it does not have any state authority. There's no state prosecutors. There's no state investigators. It's all federal jurisdiction. So because of that, the founders were wise to say, we want a place in which the federal government is less than the states. Ironically, that was their intention of creating the federal district of Columbia, that they would not have the same authority and power that the states would, because we wanted a republic in which each of the states could have equal representation and power. So the district then comes under federal jurisdiction only, which is controlled by the executive branch, and President Trump, in charge of the executive branch, has said, I've seen enough. We're going to secure our federal district of Columbia.
Yeah. Well, it's long past due, although I'm happy it's happening now. I wouldn't be living in Florida, actually, if President Trump had done this right before entering office, but that's the way God works, and God always has a plan. And ladies and gentlemen, part of that plan is you to go follow Brett. Here is his X account. and he does such remarkable work with Right on Crime. He's also a pioneer in the Great West, always joining with classic Americana buffaloes and roaming horses. And oh man, we were just in Bozeman, Montana yesterday. It's so awesome out there.
Beautiful.
Oh, it's just so amazing out there. We went to, it was like my first rodeo, my literal first rodeo.
Oh, really? Well, we have a place here. You're always welcome, and you and I can ride in the Black Hills, right up to Mount Rushmore.
I would love that. I always say Black Hills matter. That's what I always say. Well, Brett, until next time. I mean, we were flying fighter jets, so that will come out soon. Maybe we can queue up some. Yeah, okay, I see it in the script. We were flying fighter jets with Jared Isaacman. But yes, riding horses also amazing, and we'll do that next time.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Ben.
All right, thanks, man.